The two lenses through which we view life. There are fundamentally two ways to see the world. Some people look at life and see exactly what they want. Others look at life and see all the obstacles standing in the way of getting what they want. This simple difference in perspective shapes everything about how we live, work, and relate to others. Let me explain this with a story about two lumberjacks. Every morning, these two men would start chopping wood at exactly the same time. Every evening, they would stop chopping wood at the same time. However, one of the lumberjacks would disappear for about an hour in the middle of each day. Despite this, he always chopped more wood than the other man. This went on for months. Finally, the lumberjack who worked all day without taking breaks asked his coworker, "I don't understand. We start at the same time every day. We stop at the same time every day. You disappear for about an hour in the middle of every day. Yet you chop more wood than me. Where do you go during that hour?" The other lumberjack looked up and replied, "I go home and sharpen my axe." This story teaches us an important lesson. When you take an infinite mindset, you understand that success is not about how much you can accomplish in a single day. Success is about how much you can accomplish over the course of your entire career and your whole lifetime. This means you need to take vacations, turn off your email, turn off your phone, and disconnect from work. You need to go sharpen your axe. Now, let me share with you 5 essential rules that will help you discover your spark and bring that spark to life. These rules come from real experiences and observations about what makes people successful, fulfilled, and happy. Rule number 1, go after what you want. Let me tell you a story about a friend and me. We went for a run in Central Park. The Roadrunners organization hosts races on weekends, and it's common for sponsors to give away free items like apples or bagels at the end of these races. On this particular day, when we finished our run, there were free bagels available. They had set up a picnic table. On one side of the table, there were volunteers. On the table, there were boxes of bagels. On the other side, there was a long line of runners waiting to get their free bagel. I said to my friend, "Let's get a bagel." He looked at the line and said, "The line is too long." I said, "Free bagel." He replied, "I don't want to wait in line." I said again, "Free bagel." He said, "No, it's too long." That was the moment I realized there are two ways to see the world. Some people see the thing they want. Other people see the thing that prevents them from getting what they want. I could only see the bagels. My friend could only see the line. So I walked up to the line, leaned in between two people, put my hand in the box, and pulled out 2 bagels. Nobody got mad at me because there's an important rule to remember. You can go after whatever you want, but you cannot deny anyone else from going after what they want. The point here is that you don't have to wait in line. You don't have to do things the way everybody else has done them. You can do things your way. You can break the rules. You just cannot get in the way of somebody else getting what they want. Rule number 2, take care of each other. The United States Navy SEALs are perhaps the most elite warriors in the world. One of the SEALs was asked who makes it through the selection process and who is able to become a SEAL. His answer was surprising. He said, "I can't tell you the kind of person that becomes a SEAL. I can't tell you the kind of person that makes it through BUDS, basic underwater demolition / SEAL training. But I can tell you the kind of people who don't become SEALs." He explained that there are 3 types of people who never make it through. First, the guys who show up with huge, bulging muscles covered in tattoos who want to prove to the world how tough they are. None of them make it through. Second, the preening leaders who like to delegate all their responsibility and never do anything themselves. None of them make it through. Third, the star college athletes who have never really been tested to the core of their being. None of them make it through. He said that some of the guys who make it through are skinny and scrawny. Some of the guys who make it through you will see shivering out of fear. However, all the guys who make it through share one common trait. When they find themselves physically spent and emotionally spent, when they have nothing left to give physically or emotionally, somehow they are able to find the energy to dig down deep inside themselves, to find the energy to help the guy next to them. That is how they become SEALs. The lesson here is powerful. If you want to be an elite warrior, it is not about how tough you are. It is not about how smart you are. It is not about how fast you are. If you want to be an elite warrior, you better get really, really good at helping the person to your left and helping the person to your right. That is how people advance in the world. The world is too dangerous and too difficult for you to think that you can do these things alone. If you find your spark, I commend you. Now, who are you going to ask for help? And when are you going to accept help when it is offered? Learn that skill. Learn by practicing helping each other. It will be the single most valuable thing you ever learn in your entire life. You need to learn to accept help when it is offered and to ask for it when you know that you cannot do it alone. The amazing thing is that when you learn to ask for help, you will discover that there are people all around you who have always wanted to help you. They just did not think you needed it because you kept pretending that you had everything under control. The minute you say, "I don't know what I'm doing. I am stuck. I am scared. I don't think I can do this," you'll find that lots of people who love you will rush in and take care of you. But that will only happen if you learn to take care of them first. Rule number 3, be the last to speak. Nelson Mandela is a particularly special case study in the leadership world because he is universally regarded as a great leader. You can take other personalities, and depending on a nation you go to, people have different opinions about them. But Nelson Mandela, across the world, is universally regarded as a great leader. He was actually the son of a tribal chief. One day, he was asked how he learned to be a great leader. He responded that he would go with his father to tribal meetings. He remembered 2 things from those experiences. When his father would meet with other elders, they would always sit in a circle. His father was always the last to speak. You will be told your whole life that you need to learn to listen. I would say that you need to learn to be the last to speak. I see this problem in boardrooms every day of the week. Even people who consider themselves good leaders, who may actually be decent leaders, will walk into a room and say, "Here is the problem. Here's what I think. But I'm interested in your opinion. Let's go around the room." It is too late at that point. The skill of holding your opinions to yourself until everyone has spoken does 2 important things. First, it gives everybody else the feeling that they have been heard. It gives everyone else the ability to feel that they have contributed. Second, you get the benefit of hearing what everybody else has to think before you render your opinion. The skill is really to keep your opinions to yourself. If you agree with somebody, do not nod yes. If you disagree with somebody, do not nod no. Simply sit there and take it all in. The only thing you are allowed to do is ask questions so that you can understand what they mean and why they have the opinion that they have. You must understand from where they're speaking and why they have the opinion they have, not just what they're saying. At the end, you'll get your turn. It sounds easy, but it is not. Practice being the last to speak. That is what Nelson Mandela did. Rule number 4, take accountability for your actions. In the 18th century, something spread across Europe and eventually made its way to America called puerperal fever, also known as the Black Death of childbed. What was happening was that women would give birth and then die within 48 hours after giving birth. This Black Death of childbirth ravaged Europe and got worse and worse over the course of more than a century. In some hospitals, as many as 70% of women who gave birth would die as a result of giving birth. But this was the Renaissance. This was the time of empirical data and science. People had thrown away things like tradition and mysticism. These were men of science. These are doctors. These doctors and men of science wanted to study and try to find a reason for this Black Death of childbed. So they got to work studying. They would study the corpses of the women who had died. In the morning, they would conduct autopsies. Then in the afternoon, they would go and deliver babies and finish their rounds. It was not until somewhere in the mid-1800s that Dr. Oliver Wendell Holmes realized that all of these doctors who were conducting autopsies in the morning were not washing their hands before they delivered babies in the afternoon. He pointed this out and said, "Guys, you are the problem." They ignored him and called him crazy for 30 years. Finally, somebody realized that if they simply washed their hands, the problem would go away. That is exactly what happened. When they started sterilizing their instruments and washing their hands, the Black Death of childbed disappeared. The lesson here is simple. Sometimes you're the problem. My point is that you need to take accountability for your actions. You can take all the credit in the world for the things that you do right, as long as you also take responsibility for the things you do wrong. It must be a balanced equation. You do not get it one way and not the other. You get to take credit when you also take accountability. Let me tell you a true story. A few months ago, I stayed at the Four Seasons in Las Vegas. It is a wonderful hotel. The reason it is a wonderful hotel is not because of the fancy beds. Any hotel can go and buy a fancy bed. The reason it is a wonderful hotel is because of the people who work there. If you walk past somebody at the Four Seasons and they say hello to you, you get the feeling that they actually wanted to say hello to you. It is not that somebody told them that they have to say hello to all the customers or all the guests. You actually feel that they care. In their lobby, they have a coffee stand. One afternoon, I went to buy a cup of coffee. There was a barista by the name of Noah who was serving me. Noah was fantastic. He was friendly and fun and engaging with me. I had so much fun buying a cup of coffee that I think I gave a 100% tip. As is my nature, I asked Noah, "Do you like your job?" Without skipping a beat, Noah said, "I love my job." So I followed up and said, "What is it that the Four Seasons is doing that would make you say to me that you love your job?" Without skipping a beat, Noah said, "Throughout the day, managers will walk past me and ask me how I'm doing and if there's anything that I need to do my job better. Not just my manager, any manager." Then he said something magical. He said, "I also work at Caesar's Palace. At Caesar's Palace, the managers are trying to make sure we're doing everything right. They catch us when we do things wrong. When I go to work there, I like to keep my head under the radar and just get through the day so I can get my paycheck. Here at the Four Seasons, I feel I can be myself. In leadership, we are always criticizing the people. We are always saying we have to get the right people on the bus. I have to fill my team. I have to get the right people. But the reality is, it is not the people. It is the leadership. If we create the right environment, we will get people like Noah at the Four Seasons. If we create the wrong environment, we will get people like Noah at Caesar's Palace." Rule number 5, remember the lesson of humility. This is my favorite one of all. There's a true story about a former Undersecretary of Defense who was invited to give a speech at a large conference of about 1,000 people. He was standing on the stage with his cup of coffee in a styrofoam cup. He took a sip of his coffee, smiled, and looked down at the coffee. Then he went off script and said, "You know, last year I spoke at this exact same conference. Last year I was still the Undersecretary. When I spoke here last year, they flew me here business class. When I arrived at the airport, there was somebody waiting for me to take me to my hotel. They took me to my hotel, and they had already checked me in. They just took me up to my room. The next morning, I came downstairs, and there was someone waiting in the lobby to greet me. They drove me to this same venue and handed me a cup of coffee in a beautiful ceramic cup. I'm no longer the Undersecretary. I flew here, coach. I took a taxi to my hotel, and I checked myself in. When I came down the lobby this morning, I took another taxi to this venue. I came to the front door and found my way backstage. When I asked someone if they had any coffee, he pointed to the coffee machine in the corner. I poured myself a cup of coffee into this styrofoam cup. The lesson is that the ceramic cup was never meant for me. It was meant for the position I held. I deserve a styrofoam cup. Remember this as you gain fame, as you gain fortune, as you gain position and seniority. People will treat you better. They will hold doors open for you. They will get you a cup of tea or coffee without you even asking. They will call you sir or ma'am, and they will give you things. None of that stuff is meant for you. That stuff is meant for the position you hold. It is meant for the level that you have achieved of leadership or success or whatever you want to call it. But you will always deserve a styrofoam cup. Remember that lesson of humility and gratitude. You can accept all the free stuff. You can accept all the perks. Absolutely, you can enjoy them. But just be grateful for them and know that they are not for you. The bigger picture, understanding empathy and our modern world. We are asking our youngest generation to work and succeed and find themselves and build their confidence and overcome their addiction to technology and build strong relationships at work. We are asking them to do all of this, and these are the environments we have created. We keep saying to them, "You are the future leaders." But we are the leaders now. We are in control. What are we doing? This is what empathy means. It means if there is an entire generation struggling, maybe it is not them. It is like the common factor in all my failed relationships is me. It is the same thing. We say, we just cannot get the right performance out of our people. Maybe it is you. It is not a generation. It is not them. They are not difficult or hard to understand. They are human beings like the rest of us, trying to find their way, trying to work in a place where they feel that someone cares about them as a human being. By the way, that is what we all want. In other words, it is not even generational. It is all of us. This is the practice of empathy. If we are struggling to communicate with someone, if we are struggling to help someone be at their natural best, we need to ask different questions. I am tired of people saying to me, "How do I get the best out of my people?" Really? That is what you want. They're like a towel that you just wring out. How can I get the most out of them? No. How do I help my people be at their natural best? We are not asking these questions. We are not practicing empathy. We have to start by practicing empathy and relating to what others may be going through. It will profoundly change the decisions we make. It will profoundly change the way we see the world. The impact of social media and technology on our youth. We are growing up in a Facebook and Instagram world. In other words, we are good at putting filters on things. We are good at showing people that life is amazing even though we are depressed. Everybody sounds tough. Everybody sounds like they have it all figured out. The reality is there is very little toughness, and most people do not have it figured out. When a more senior people say, "Well, what should we do?" they sound like they have all the answers, but they have no clue. So we have an entire generation growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations. We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That is why when you get a text, it feels good. That is why we count the likes. That is why we go back 10 times to see if our Instagram is growing faster or slower. Did I do something wrong? Do they not like me anymore? The trauma for young kids to be unfriended is real. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it is highly, highly addictive. We have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress of adolescence. Why is this important? What is happening is that because we are allowing unfettered access to these dopamine-producing devices and media, it is becoming hardwired. What we are seeing is that as they grow older, too many kids do not know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. They will admit this themselves. Many of their friendships are superficial. They will admit that they do not count on their friends. They do not rely on their friends. They have fun with their friends, but they also know that their friends will cancel on them if something better comes along. Deep, meaningful relationships are not there because they never practice the skill set. Worse, they do not have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they are not turning to a person. They are turning to a device. They are turning to social media. They're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. The right to love your work. I believe loving your work is a right and not a privilege. I despise the fact, I lament the fact, I curse the fact that so few people get to say, "I love my job," as if they have won some lottery. You go out with your friends and somebody says, "I love my job." Everybody goes, "Oh my God, you are so lucky." That to me is madness. The vast majority of people should get to wake up and say, "I love my job." It is a right. It is a God-given right that we should love where we work. We should demand it. We should demand that our leaders provide an environment in which we want to come, where we want to care about each other, where we feel safe to express our vulnerabilities and our fears and our concerns. We should be open to correction, discipline, and feedback. We should not be defensive because we know that it is being given to help us improve and grow. We want to improve and grow. In turn, we will help others improve and grow. When we feel safe, when we feel that our leaders care more about us than a number, when they care more about our lives and our confidence and our joy and our skill set more than some short-term gain, when they care more about our priorities than the priorities of some uninterested external group, then we will respond in kind. We will offer our blood, sweat, and tears. We will make sacrifices of all kinds to see that our leaders' vision is advanced and that the company continues to thrive. Not for them, but for ourselves. It becomes deeply personal. It becomes something we love contributing to. I talk about it all the time. Working hard for something we do not care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion.